Hello, everyone. So today I'm here with General Haldopoulos, who also happens to be my uncle. So I am so excited to get this chance to interview him and give him the opportunity to share his story about his time in the Air Force with you all. So first of all, hello, Theo Manny. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're very kind. Thank you for inviting me for this. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so excited for this. So I just want to start off by asking you, how long have you been in the Air Force and what do you currently do for them?
You bet. If you count the time I did in university at the Air Force Academy from 1986 to 1990, I've been in 34 years. I graduated from there in 1990, so add another 30. 10 years active duty and then 20 now in the reserve component, specifically in the Air National Guard. And I'm the Chief of Staff of the Georgia Air National Guard.
Cool. So I'm the Army National Guard, so we got a little family rivalry going on, but.
Oh, I wish you would have joined the Air Guard or the Air Force.
So what would you say has been one of your favorite memories from your time in the Air Force?
In my younger ranks as a captain in the Air Force back in active duty, I flew the B-1 bomber. And between 1994 and 1997, I was in a base in South Dakota. And I was paired with the same guys, 4 people in the airplane. And when you get to fly in a squadron that long with the same guys in a great airplane, the things that we got to do and the relationships we built and the missions that we did were memorable. And really nothing has surpassed that since, even though my roles and responsibilities are very rewarding and quite different from what they were back then. I'll never forget those 3 years that I had as a young captain flying the B-1.
That's awesome. I've definitely heard from a lot of people that the relationships you make are really, really strong.
They are.
Especially in like the stressful environment that active duty can create. So then what would you say on the opposite side has been maybe one of your biggest struggles or obstacles that you've had to overcome or deal with throughout your time in the Air Force?
Quite a few later years in late 2011, as a lieutenant colonel, I was put into a position with little experience directing the operations of the Georgia National Guard, both the Army and the Air, to respond to any natural disasters or requirements that the governor had. And in very short order after assuming that role, we had one of the worst winter storms across the Southeast. A couple months later, we had some of the very worst tornadoes and convective activity we had. And then a couple months after that, so this is all in the span of 6 months, we had some terrible wildfires down in Southeast Georgia. So learning how best to utilize not just my Air Force experiences, but quickly having to learn what the Army National Guard and the active Army is able to bring to the response of those very varied scenarios, the winter storm, the wildfires, and the tornadoes. It took a lot out of me, but I realized that through perseverance and bringing in the experts of those that really do know what they're doing and building a project team is the way to go.
Yeah, that seems like that was like an interesting experience, getting to combine both the Army and the Air Force and having that time to work with people that you may not have worked with otherwise.
Up to that point, it had been training for roles and responsibilities overseas against near peer foes or other formidable forces. But at that point, it was all helping our citizenry here in Georgia.
Was that the first time that there had been like a big action on like work in Georgia? Like most of your work before then been overseas work?
That was really one of the first times that we had compressed natural disasters in short order in Georgia. And it was the first time that an Air Guard officer was in charge of it all. So those 2 challenges added up to a testing time.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you got the experience to represent the Air Force and to take care of your state like that. It sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's one of the most important lessons you say you've learned from your time in service?
This is without doubt the answer to that question, and that is the enlisted force, those that really day-to-day execute and operate the Air Force, the most important people in our force, truly develop them to be able to make decisions on their own, to execute the mission without too much control from the officer corps, and do all you can to support every endeavor that they have with regard to developing their own capabilities, whether it be education or expanding their horizons by classifying them into other areas that they haven't initially been introduced to or educated in. So if you can force develop the enlisted and trust in them, I promise you everything that you've ever hoped you could accomplish in the military will come true, because they truly are the backbone of what we do.
That's awesome. Have you found that the relationship between the officers and the enlisted has been a good beneficial one, for you as you've climbed in the ranks throughout your officership too?
It absolutely should be. And in most cases it is. And if you find a situation where it's not, it should be your number one priority to remedy.
That's good to know. That's good advice for me too. I know that some of our commanders, we have a good balance of enlisted and officers that I have the opportunity to train under, and I enjoy seeing that relationship between the two of them. I think that's been one of the most beneficial things for me as well, is to see how the officers respect the knowledge and the experience that the enlisted have, and how the enlisted respect the experience.
It's totally different in the Army. I was in my late 30s, almost 15 years in, before I had the chance to command a unit, and it was less than 100 people. The Army, completely different. As a company grade officer, your force loves to put you guys in command of a large group of soldiers. So before you know it, your leadership style is going to be developed.
That's definitely interesting to hear the difference between the Air Force and the Army there. That's cool. Awesome.
Yep, it is.
Well, then I want to end with, are there any words of wisdom, any messages or advice that you'd want to give to the younger generation, either people who are maybe just entering the military, specifically the Air Force, or thinking about joining?
Okay, so for the former, those that have already joined and they're brand new in, we used to say you join the military to see the world, but we can't afford to be everywhere in the world anymore. And our national defense strategy is refocusing towards more of a centralized dispersion of people. So if you join to see the world, I think you'll be a little bit disappointed. That was true in the 90s and before. But now you should join to have a wide breadth of experience, meaning you may join to a particular MOS or AFSC, a specialty as we call it in the military, but do not in any way limit yourself just to that. Mention to your commanders and your supervisors that there are other specialties and classifications that you would like to cross-train into. And without delay, get your education. If you've come out of high school without a degree in an undergraduate program, immediately apply for something. If you're an officer with an undergraduate degree, work immediately towards a postgraduate degree. That's my other advice. So those that are thinking about joining that haven't yet, I can't think of a better time than doing that right now, because first of all, the propensity to serve is pretty low across your generation, Ariel. It's not so much true of every location across the country, but certainly in the urban areas. And I can't think of a better time than now, when our country is in dire need of some centralized and focused service and support than this time, this COVID response time. So we would love to have you in the military.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing those words of wisdom and for sharing your story. I hope that everybody watching really enjoyed hearing about General Haldopoulos' time in the Air Force and all of his experiences, and I hope you guys got something out of this. So, Manny, thank you so much for joining me, and everybody watching, thank you for watching.